Hello, beautiful friends. I was waiting for the last few words. I'm just the breath of God, a breath of life, a breath of God. Isn't that amazing? And so here we are, unfolding through this amazing, unbelievable, real ascension process. And today I will be sharing some of the future memories. I know it doesn't make much sense, but that's just how we all are. We all have future memories, whether we know it or not. And this is the time to bring those into our daily consciousness, because as you know, also from the video that Patricia Cota Robles posted, this is the time to actually start dreaming. This is again the dream time. And so because some of these dreams already happened, we can bring them back from the future into the present. Is that confusing? And so the way that it all works, right? And within your beautiful soul that we explored so much, all exists right now, timelessly. So I created this diagram for the soul. This is what Yogananda taught me. When I first met Yogananda in 2010 in the physical reality, he asked me to meet with him every single day in a very specific setting every day to build up the energy. Now, if you have guides that you work with, that you have met with, who came to you like this in an etheric body or in the physical body, then there is a real power in repetition. There is a real power in anchoring the energy. That's why I recommend having your meditation room, meditation chair, meditation corner in your home, because as you every day do the same in the same place, repeating, which means meditating, 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 you are not only sitting in the meditation space that you have, but you are building and building and building the energetics. So that's why when you go today into the Hermitage of Yogananda, for example, to visit, or into the meditation gardens, it is not just, some place that people like to visit where Yogananda used to live. He still lives there. And I mean, the energy lives there. The energy of a saint like that, an avatar, will never dissipate. It will always be available to everyone to be touched by them. Now, the funny story that I have about Yogananda, so I didn't know who he was. I never saw a picture of him, never heard anything about him. And so he appeared and started to teach. Now, when we went to Encinitas last Sunday, I was in the bookstore and I met two German students of Yogananda who were visiting from Germany. And they told me about a story of another person like that came into the gardens, sat down, never heard of Yogananda, just went to visit because just, it's nice gardens, nice view of the ocean. And Yogananda appeared to him. And so these two students from Germany, they were wondering, why would he appear to people that know nothing about him? Why doesn't he appear to people who already love him, worship him, study with him? And so I thought, well, he is recruiting us, right? He comes to those who don't know him, because the ones who already know him and they already are doing all that, he taught, he doesn't need to recruit us, right? And so he comes to those who are the newbies. So I was a newbie, and so this other person was a newbie too. And so Yogananda comes and he calls you to him. So that's just very beautiful. I felt the same way happen also with Swami Kaleshwar, because what's the point in appearing to those who already are on the path? And so he taught me about meeting with him every day in the same place, whether it is physically or non-physically, but every day focusing in the same place. And for me, that was actually inside the Hermitage, inside his home, where you go into the living room, and in the living room there are couches by the fireplace. And at the fireplace, he was teaching me about the living fire of God as the first step to self-realization. Now, the way that it works is that, of course, the burden is sitting here down in this human being, and it is the burden of unconsciousness, burden of all the life force that was not really used with consciousness. And so the little character down here usually comes with a lot of conditioning, and you can call conditioning a burden. And so the first thing we want to do as the character down here in this world, we want to unburden ourselves. And so Yogananda taught me to do this with the living fire of God. And these days, many of us, if not all of us, work with the violet flame. So this is helping the character to be less and less and less conditioned. and to be more expanded, and in the way, right, we call it liberation. So liberation is liberation from all these energies that create conditions, and in a way you would say these are past conditions, even though they are just the result of all the experiences the soul was dreaming. So once the character down here is liberated, I recommend doing the living fire of God, and every day liberating, liberating, liberating. You can think of it as a bird that has really heavy wings. That's the character down here. When we remove all the weight from the wings, the bird can fly again, and we call it ascension. So this is the process we are actually going through. When we rise into the field of the soul, we realize that the soul actually doesn't experience time, and that the soul is experiencing eternal life. And so there is no such thing as past, present, and future. And that's why we can actually have, as the character down here, we can have access to our soul's dreaming, and we can then experience all time at once, and we would call it the eternal now. So within the soul, the time doesn't exist, and yet the soul has dreamt and is dreaming, will be dreaming many, 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 many millions of characters. And one of the characters is the person that you are here now in this world. So this character down here can do actually a lot of, we call it spiritual work, development, liberating, 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 until suddenly we get more and more access, and eventually full access to our soul's dreams, which means we become one with the soul. That too is an ascension process. There is a tube of light that comes down through which the soul expresses its light, its unique tone, through the character that you are, I am, we are in this world. So as the character ascends through this ascension tube, really, into the soul, the character then has access to also what we would call future dreams, even though they all are timeless and eternal. When we become one with the soul, we gain soul power. It requires dissolution of the limited self. As long as we believe that we are the character here in the movie, we are very limited in our consciousness, because we are so associated with the character that we cannot fully understand who we truly are. Within the soul, we gain so much more soul power, soul knowledge. We become so much more in charge of the experience the character is having here as well. And so the pathway is very simple. We all have a same pathway. Through the spine, we rise, and we rise into these higher solar planes. So within the solar plane, there is a lot to be explored. There's a lot to be understood. There is a lot to gain from dissolving, 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 until one day we pop open and we can become as vast as the soul itself. And so when we can experience this expansion, this is a huge victory for the character. You can call it also liberation. And just practicing expanding is something that we all actually get to experience at the moment of departure from the body. We expand, but not everybody expands the same way. And that just hopefully makes sense too, that at the moment of departure from this body, what leaves is not exactly your soul, because your soul doesn't fully incarnate ever. It stays and remains in the solar plane. But actually there is an aspect of us that expands, of course. It's like taking I always say, the body is like a glove. And when you open the glove, then the hand can slip out. And so at the moment of departure from the body, we are the hand that slips out. Now, for those, mystics that you are, who have practiced a lot of self-realization, who have done a lot of work on your subtle bodies, then you can expand into more of thy being. But some people just expand a little bit, because obviously the levels of our being are not just one level for all. There are multiple levels to be self-realized. So let's say that the next level that is available to us would be our astral body. But then even beyond that, there are other bodies that actually are much higher bodies that can lead us all the way to what we call the absolute. Yesterday, we listened to Yogananda, who was sharing with us in the recording that I found on YouTube, the beautiful poem, which was about samadhi. And in the beautiful poem, he said, prepare yourself for the liberating shock of omnipresence. And the liberating shock of omnipresence is even beyond the soul. Because obviously what is beyond the soul is what we call spirit, the heavenly spirit. And the heavenly spirit is the one that is nourishing the souls. The souls are dreamers, dreaming their dreams. But the spirit is even beyond and also around and through in all things. But the limitless spirit is the one that we would find even beyond the soul. So beyond the dreams, there is something beyond the dreams, and that is what we call the absolute. And so that is omnipresence. We can define it also as cosmic consciousness, because when we have this experience of expansion, you know, it's layer by layer. We pop open. And so when we pop open, I had a picture here yesterday that I liked, because that's exactly what I find it looks like when we expand. This would be our omnipresence. This is the liberation from all form, from all dreams, from all characters, from all past, present, and future lifetimes. This is oneness with all. When Yogananda experienced this himself, he just experienced the ever-present I. And he said, ever-present I everywhere. And that again is our cosmic consciousness. So again, the pathway is very clear. It's very scientific. You know, Sri Yukteswar called it the holy science. The holy science is basically knowing how your spine leads beyond this world into these more subtle and then even more subtle and higher realms. And so the liberating shock of omnipresence, it is the explosion of our consciousness, which first actually requires the fearless death of the old false self. How do we know that it is the false self? Well, it is the one that identified with being a character, the one who believes so firmly that this character is somehow very real and that the life and death of this character is also real. And so we need to understand that, and this character is simply a result of the soul's dream, really dreaming. And it's, you know, quite amazing. But when we pop the character open, the character, of course, opens to more and more and more, and eventually experiences the ever-present I, the I everywhere. And that's again in the poem yesterday, Yogananda also said when he experienced this expansion, another way to see it actually is this, and this is the image that we created with Daniel Holman, which is the expansion from our limited self into the planetary self, through all the elements, into the solar self, into the universal self, and into the cosmic self. So this is within all of us. All of us are actually designed the same way, like this. And so we want to self-realize all these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful levels. Again, when this is experienced through the being and is not experienced exactly in the body, because the body ceases to exist, we become one with all. And then Yogananda said, though you, sorry, he was using the Shakespeare language. I have to switch gears here. Thou art I art thou. So again, it's about saying, I am one with cosmic consciousness. And finally, one of the beautiful quotes in the poem was, I am a tiny bubble of laughter. Now I experience this, you know, this is our destiny for all of us to actually expand, to pop open. I like saying pop open because something actually pops. It is the pop within the spine, and it is the pop then in our astral spine, and then we pop into the causal plane, and then we completely dissolve in all of it and get to see the entire universe as the I. So again, the ever-present I and I everywhere. How do we get there? And should we get there? Why is this important? Well, this is our highest potential. Our highest potential is the same for every single one of us, and is to be a cosmic being. At this level, we let go of the little character and we realize also who the character is, who the character isn't. And so our identification then happens energetically. This expansion is an energetic expansion, and it requires some intense letting go, surrendering, being able to fully open and to become nothingness, and also to become everythingness. And so when this happens, of course, we have access to so much more of who we are, and we can go and have access to these higher realms and realms that we also call the New Earth. So I will be sharing a little bit about the New Earth that I have shared before, but I find it so important that for those of us who have visited the New Earth, and we have done it maybe in an out-of-body state or through an expanded consciousness state through meditation, that we bring back these memories, even though they are future, because they are assisting us then to, navigate through this reality, which to me is actually navigating through the past. And so again, meditation will give you great access to all of these layers of your own being. But again, meditation is about expansion. When we were in the jungle in Mexico with Arcturus and some of you here, I had an experience. I was just walking through the campground, which was surrounded by jungle. It was just beautiful. And just walking towards, the place where we would be having meals. And you can hear all these animals, all the birds, and they also had some domestic animals like dogs. And so just paying attention to all that surrounds you with all the beautiful nature, the palm trees. And suddenly my heart switched on, and I call it, this is the switch that we all will be switching on the New Earth. It's a very different state of being. And again, you can see it here in this picture. This is something I first got to know when I visited the New Earth. And so it happened like this, through the nature in the jungle, where you didn't have so many humans, not so many buildings, obviously, if any at all, actually. And so nature suddenly switched on the receiver that the heart is. But the heart is not only a receiver, the heart is also a transmitter. And so as I just was walking, suddenly I started to receive all the codes, which is information from all that was surrounding me. And I felt this expanding state of magnetism. So my magnetism started to expand through the heart. And this is for all of us to experience, of course, when we attune. And the magnetism was now reaching everything around me, reaching every life form. And I felt the sweetness of all life forms. And in that state, we, of course, also, something really important happens. We could never harm any part of life. This is also important because, of course, we've lived in a society where we normalized harm. And it became so normal once again that we need to question what normal is as opposed to what is natural. So is it natural to be of harm? It is not, but it is natural for us to be of love. And so again, we're just shifting gears into a much more expanded state of being in which you and me feel with all life through the heart. We feel with all life, which means all elemental queendoms on this planet and beyond. We start feeling as if we are one with the earth and beyond. We feel one with the oceans. We feel one with all the creatures. We feel one with all of humanity. So it's a lot of oneness to actually experience through the sacred heart. Again, this is the New Earth design. One day, my first visitation to the New Earth. So it was always through an out of body travel, and it was never my like goal, like I want to go to the new earth. Sometimes you simply are taken. And this was very interesting. This was my first time, and it happened, I think, around 2020. I came out of body, and there's always like a energy flow that takes you places, but sometimes you also can have your own intentions and they work too, but it's a mixture of both. And so I ended up on the new earth, and I met with several human beings who already resided on the new earth. And, you know, obviously many people have visited the new earth already, but my husband was reading a book about a Lakota shaman, so native medicine man, who was born around the year 1830, the Black Elk. And so in the book, again, old knowledge, right? It already spoke about the new earth. And so Black Elk, this shaman, the medicine man, visited the new earth himself many times. And he said that the native people, when they depart from this world, they go to the new earth. But it was not like paradise and, what we call heaven. It was truly, he spoke about the new earth. So when I visited the new earth and I spoke to the human beings there, just like Black Elk, I didn't see anyone who would be like we would call it old age. Everyone I met, you would say that they would be in vibrant, thriving bodies, just fully functioning. And the age, if I should put it into some kind of perspective, would be around the age of 30. And so we spoke about what it requires for a human being to actually enter the new earth dimension. And that was several things. Number one was oneness with cosmic nature. Oneness with nature, understanding that nature absolutely comes first, and that it's not the humanity that comes first, but nature first. And so everything on the new earth, the way I always describe it, is integrated into nature. There is reverence for nature more than anything else because it's an expression of the divine. And so nature becomes the book of life. Here in this world, we have, books like the Bible, but actually on the new earth, the book becomes actually nature. And nature is a book that is daily updated. And so new information is coming as emanation from nature. So the human beings I spoke to on the new earth, they even integrate their dwellings, what we would call homes and everything, into actually nature. Now, trees, for example, in this world, again, we look at trees, and very often, humanity didn't have much respect for the natural queendom, but trees are also incredibly honored on the new earth because there is such thing as a cosmic tree. And again, many native nations and many ancient traditions, they knew that there is such thing as the big cosmic tree, the tree of life, not only living within us, but also being the one that we all are part of. I got to see this tree just like you see here through my journey that I would call the journey through the 12 chakra system that we have. So when you are able to actually perceive yourself as a multidimensional being and you experience the 12 chakras of your new system that we all have now, then you get to see that we all belong to a tree of life. The tree of life is so important, and it is not a myth. It truly exists within us, but also we exist within it. It creates the toroidal field that we are part of. You could say that there is a great one, and we are in the field of the great one. The beings on the new earth, which we would call humans, really, but I would say the upgraded human, the fifth dimensional human who is filled with love, have non-attachment. Non-attachment. So today, like in this world, of course, we've always learned about how important non-attachment is through the senses, but they already experience upgraded senses. There is no such thing as holding on to something or someone. There is complete freedom. There's freedom from the material attachment to things and situations and conditions. It's a complete state of liberation. So non-attachment has always been taught through many traditions on this planet here for this civilization, because it actually leads to liberation, and liberation allows us to rise into this new earth consciousness. Our senses, you know, they are beautiful, but they got actually polluted and hijacked in a way. And so anything that we wanted to hold on to and have a lot of and grab and kind of use and misuse, all of it in a way happened also through this degradation of our senses. So the true freedom is gained when there is nothing that we think we need except for that one thing. And that's not even needing, it is just our deep, constant connection with what we could call the heavenly spirit. So when we live in constant God consciousness, in constant communion with the heavenly spirit in all things, then we don't need anything, and we don't have the wrong relationship, or I would say a confused relationship with manifestation. In this world, matter is also an expression of spirit. When the human being misunderstood what matter is and what this world is, the human being became kind of attached to the world of matter through the senses, through needs and wants, through desires. But the new earth consciousness is complete freedom from all of that. And it is a state of complete enjoyment in freedom. So we can enjoy in freedom. So it's enjoying in freedom, adoring creation for what it is, understanding what creation is without holding on to something. So it's constant just freedom, which in a way is letting go of attachment. I don't know if I'm describing all of this well. I'm kind of digging into the depth of my consciousness through these experiences, but hopefully it all translates energetically. Because the only reasonable state of consciousness is actually freedom. Okay, good. Thank you. So freedom comes from knowing who we are. Freedom comes from actually self-realization. There is no freedom without self-realization, but in this fifth dimensional way of living, of course, everybody is self-realized, and the knowing is always there. It is the knowing, and it's not guessing. It's not even intuition. Here in this world, of course, you know, we have this diminished design of the human being. But when I met with these humans who already are on the new earth, they are obviously back to what a human being was supposed to be, which is constant knowing and constant, just, I call it even, it's not even guidance, because guidance in this world, you know, it's very different from what it is in this new world. In the new world, it is all simply constantly knowing the great heavenly spirit, knowing divine will, and simply moving with the divine will. There is no such thing as what we call in this world the ego will, the limited will without attuning to divine will. So everything moves according to divine will in these higher realms. So there is no room for unconsciousness to be expressed as harming anything and anyone or self, of course. So there is this constant knowing of the oneness of all life. So again, it was about practicing complete non-attachment. Non-attachment. Now, what is attachment? Attachment is an expression of fear. What is fear? Fear is, in a way, the opposite or lack of Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness, which is all love. In this world, attachment has many different forms, but in a way, all attachment is fear. Love is not fear. Sometimes people actually confuse attachment and love. When we love someone, we are loving in freedom. So non-attachment is also an expression of love. It's not ignorance. Fear is attachment. It is the fear of letting go. It is even fear of freedom. When we completely can love, we are free. What is an addiction in this world? Addiction to something, whatever it is, everybody can imagine how many different addictions there are in this world. It is all an expression of fear. The fear of freedom, the fear of expansion, the fear of the unknown, the fear of our own vastness. And so love is actually true love. We can call it true love, is actually completely free. It's so expanded that it doesn't know any fear. It's so expanded that it doesn't need to hold on to something and someone. It simply is. And that is actually our design. And that is what we can call Krishna consciousness. We can call it Christ consciousness. And actually, it's our truth. And the truth doesn't have a polar opposite. One thing about the truth of Christ consciousness, it's never some word, it's never some teaching, it's a state of being. And the state of being is this: full-blown expansion, full-blown oneness with all of cosmos. That is the ever-present I, and I everywhere. That actually is Christ consciousness. And so it doesn't have a polar opposite. It's not true that love is the opposite of fear, because at the level of this expanded Christ consciousness, which is one with the entire cosmos, there is no fear. And that's our destiny, once again, to be so expanded that there is no fear, because when you are one with all, there is nothing to fear. It was only when we were in the limited false self. And so letting go is a wonderful practice, and realizing that letting go is, again, not ignoring something, but it is actually deep compassion, deep connection, deep oneness with all. Again, beautiful stories, through Yogananda. It is the truth, the oneness, the love, the allness with all things all at once. It is when we become so dissolved that there is no limitation, and we can call it ecstasy and bliss that never ends. Again, all of this can be truly experienced just through meditation and through this being here that expands, of course, beyond, beyond, and beyond. So my second visit to the new earth, so this was about integration into nature. So, we are human beings here in the world. And one of the first things that Divine Mother told me, one of the first things when she first came as the Green Tara, she kept just saying, let us return to respecting all of nature. And that means, in a way, living with an environmental consciousness because of love, not polluting, not, putting just trash into the belly of the earth, as she said. And so environmental consciousness is an expression of love, caring for this planet, just like the native people, that I recently visited, the Hopi people in Arizona. They have, creation story where they receive the earth and they are supposed to care for this world as an expression of the cosmic body, as an expression of consciousness. So in a way, it's living in harmony with all of cosmic nature, living attuned to her, not misusing her in any way, abusing her in any way. It's an expression of the divine. So environmental consciousness is actually an expression of our cosmic consciousness, of course. So all actually is integrated within nature on the new earth, because all beings understand that they need to be informed by nature, as she is the receiver of solar light, source light, and then she emanates it as information. Nature is the book of life that contains ever new information. It's not our old stuff. It's all at once, but always upgraded through evolution that is taking place within cosmos in every single now. So it is through the solar light as it emanates into physical nature that we know here as, trees and plants and rocks and the waters and the air and all of the elements and elementals. And then the five elements through nature emanate information to the human heart. So the heart becomes a receiver of knowledge. The heart becomes a receiver of knowing. The heart becomes a receiver of information, of evolution, of that which is next. And so then the heart is constantly making decisions, and the decision is always goodness. It is always oneness. It is always love. It is always goodwill. It is always consciousness. So it is no longer the ego will, but now it's the will of the heart, which is the divine will that moves us forward. So that was my second visitation to the new earth. And this time it was what we call, in this world, we call this place Sedona. But it was through the solar flash that we can receive even individually, that many people actually in this world have received already, and it rewires our nervous system when it comes, and it is almost like being struck by solar light. So it happened to me actually in the middle of the night, and then I was able to completely leave this body again and go to the new earth, but this time to the landscape that we would call, Sedona, so the beautiful red rocks. And this time, all the beings I met with, they were native people that I would call our family, and we become one with them. So for me, it was, a lot of uncles and brothers and sisters, but mainly I was speaking to my uncles, and they were taking me around, and I would recognize them as today, what we call the Hopi people. And so they were taking me just around, me walking around, telepathically communicating, not even using spoken language anymore. So we eliminated misunderstanding. And they were showing me again how nature is constantly emanating code. And code to me, when I see codes, I see actually numerical codes, but also what we call the alphabet. So some letters, some numbers. So I was looking at nature emanating and looking at trees and bushes and plants emanating codes. And the codes were coming as numbers. And the numbers were different from what I see here on this planet or have seen here. So here on this planet, the code that we are so familiar with is the binary code. So it was just zeros and ones on this earth that we are on right now. But when I was on the new earth, the code was different. And the code was actually 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And these codes, to me, was the upgrade from this duality here, the binary code of zeros and ones. And I don't understand all of it anyway, but I'm just saying how it happened. And so on the new earth, the code was the richness of all. And so the nature on the new earth was emanating these codes, and I could see how they land immediately without us doing anything inside the heart, the sacred heart. I could look down at my own heart, which would be the sacred, the spiritual heart, not the physical heart. And the heart was reading the code. So again, it was a receiver of the code. Now I could tell that nature, as the book of life, is telling me something. And so my heart was the one that reads it. It was not even my human mind, whatever that is. But it was the heart. I was just reading the code. The heart read the code. And immediately the heart knew what to do. So it was almost like nature tells you what to do and you just do it. So instead of having our own personal will that took us astray so many lifetimes into some murky waters and bad neighborhoods, now it was all about just divine will. So the divine will is received by the heart, and then the heart just simply knows and moves forward. So nothing was about being stagnant. Nothing was about not knowing. Nothing was about, I have to decide with my logical mind, is it this or that? Is it right or left? The heart simply knew, follow me. And so again, this is important to know that as we open our heart in this world, we can open it through a very simple practice as an emanation of our magnetism to actually become one with all life in one love, which is our Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness. And then the code simply flows in and it informs us, not even informs our mind, but it informs our heart. And then love knows exactly what is next. So how do we do it? I found it super useful when I had this spontaneous experience just walking, through the campground in the jungle a few days ago, really. And so I recognized that it required nothing. I was like, I was not meditating. I was not thinking about anything. I was just walking. And as I was walking, I started to listen to nature. And as I was listening to nature, in the jungle, the abundance of nature just reminded my heart, you are one with all life. And there was no thought. It was complete thoughtlessness. But suddenly the heart without no thought can truly expand. It is the thought that keeps us identified with the limited version of who we are, which is our false self. When you were a child, and I hope we all remember what it was like, I bet we didn't have all this thought about things. We were in the state of experience. And so when we return to the state of experience, that is true presence. True presence. True presence is not a thought. It is a state of oneness with all life all at once and feeling all at once as love. When I was feeling this love, I was delighting in the oneness with all the creatures. I could see all their smiling faces, even though I didn't see any of them around me. But suddenly my heart became aware of the sweetness of all creatures, all the dogs and chickens and turkeys and birds and cows and horses and donkeys. I could feel them all within my being. Now, this is similar to what Yogananda shared in his Samadhi experience yesterday. He became one with the roots of the trees. He became one with all, there was, I think he talked about a white cow. And so this was the same experience. It was such an expansion of oneness and then feeling the sweetness all at once with all that is around. The sweetness of the trees, the sweetness of the human beings, the sweetness of the land, the sweetness of the sun. And so it was just a spontaneous expansion into this oneness with all life. So when I felt that, it lasted for about 20 minutes at the most, but it was such a teaching experience and learning experience that I realized that when the human being attunes to all that surrounds us, we become again completely harmless. And I felt like I want to greet all the animals when I wake up. I want to say goodnight to them when I go to bed, just acknowledging their sweetness and how they contribute, how their sweet faces contribute to actually our well-being, and that we are not above them, but we are one with them, and that everything is an orchestra of these beautiful beings and the beautiful nature, and that we are just one with it. So again, all of this really, I relate back to this experience on the New Earth with the Hopi family, when they showed me how our New Earth design is pretty much that. It's an expanded state of being where we are one with all life. And so we are always in tune, which means in love with all life. And all our actions are actions of goodness, and all our actions lead to greatness. And it's as simple as living from the heart. And so what can we do? We'll have a few more minutes to close with the meditation that I recommend doing these days. This was something that really came to me in Encinitas last week on Sunday. Well, it was actually this week on Sunday. And that was that silent meditation is often difficult for the human mind because the human mind likes to think a lot. But the human mind also is going to be rewired to become so much more of the mind of the divine self. So the higher mind that is not a thinker, but it is once again like a child, an experiencer. Just like when we were little kids, just playing. It was so delightful. And so we go back into that delight. So if you want to experience this oneness with all life, it is truly just an expansion of your own magnetism, which is emanated through the heart. And so if you feel like it, join me now. I'm going to close my eyes and just focus on your heart. Let us all focus on our hearts, on the sweetness, this delight. And maybe remembering what it was like to be a small child who liked to play and have fun. When you were just like Yogananda, a tiny bubble of laughter, feeling the ever new joy, the inexhaustible joy of your holy heart. And just focusing on the holy heart, on the sacred heart, on the sweetness, on the joy, on the delight, on the bliss that exists within you. And this to me now is such a wonderful way of meditating silently, is to simply withdraw and withdraw into the sweetness and delight and joy and bliss of the heart, and then rest there as long as you can. And we use our breath to really focus and center in the sacred heart, in this temple, the Holy of Holies. And as we do that, we start to expand our magnetism, and this magnetic field can be very, very large and infinite, to move even through the entire earth, so that you embrace this planet in your heart's magnetism. And just feel for a moment what it's like to be one with this beautiful sphere that we call the earth. And then we can expand even farther beyond the earth to become one with our galaxy, another sphere, even though it seems like a disk, but the magnetism of the galaxy also is a sphere with a North Pole and a South Pole, just like your spine, just like the earth. That is our galactic consciousness. And then we expand beyond the galaxy into our universe, just one of the many multiverses. And even the universe is a tree of life with a North Pole and a South Pole, from microcosm to macrocosm. What is it like to be one with your universal body, practicing dissolving the self? And then our final expansion, just the breath away, just the heartbeat away, is when we become one with omnipresence, one with cosmos, the one who contains all universes within. And so that's where we become ever-present I, and I everywhere. And so it is. And so we go back to this being here, but now filled with cosmic consciousness, and most of all, filled with love. And so we become the Christed being, really. The new cosmic Christ embodied in you here and now. So thank you so much. Once again, I posted the replay from yesterday on YouTube, and I will post this one too. And we will repeat at 5 p.m. And today is the full moon. And so our final activation for this lunar cycle is tomorrow. So thank you so much, and so much love. And thank you for expanding here together as one.